Good morning, afternoon, or evening, cats and dogs. Today's video comes from the lessons 2.3 and 2.4 guided notes on solving percent problems. This is going to be a pretty lengthy video. We're not going to accomplish all of this in one day during class, but I'm going to put it all in one video so it's all here together, and feel free to skip around to whatever you need. The first method for solving percent problems is the percent proportion. So I'm going to show you two different ways to solve percent problems. And the percent proportion is something you're going to have to memorize. Now, on the test, I will give you the option of choosing either the percent proportion or percent equation, which is the other method to find your solution. But on the quiz, I will ask you to show both because I want you to be familiar with both methods in case for some of you one works better than the other. So our percent proportion that you'll need to memorize is P over B equals R over 100. P represents the part, B represents the base or total or whole number, base meaning total or whole. And then R is going to represent the percent, but not as a decimal. That's why we're putting it over 100. So we don't need to write it as a decimal. When we do the percent equation, we won't be putting it over 100, so we will need to write it as a decimal. Now the other thing that I've taught in the past is over of equals R over 100, because typically your part is pretty close to the word is in the problem, and your base is typically close to the word of, because a lot of times it will be out of some sort of total. So look for those keywords in the problem because they can guide you a little bit as to what the part, base, and the percent is really easy to identify because it has a percent sign after it, but what the part and the base will be. So our directions for our examples we're going to see to start are to use the percent proportion to answer each of the following problems. We'll round to the nearest tenth if needed, and if the decimal is non-repeating and goes on for more than 2 or 3 places after the decimal, again, that's where we're going to round to the nearest tenth. Now what you're going to notice is there's going to be an example on the left that is done for us, and then the example on the right is going to be really similar to that. So number 1, it says 48 is what percent of 52? So the base, I think that's the easier one to identify, is 52 because it's out of 52. So I wrote B equals 52. That means my part is 48. It can't be R or the percent because it doesn't have a percent sign after it. So 48 is P. So my percent proportion is P over B equals R over 100. Replace P with 48, B with 52. And then we have 48 over 52 equals R over 100. Cross multiply to solve. We have 52 times R and 48 times 100. Divide both sides by 52. 4800 divided by 52 gives you a really lengthy decimal. It's 92.307, etc. So I rounded to the nearest tenth, so that's why I have the squiggly equal sign. It's about 92.3%. Number 2, 295 is what percent of 400? So the base is 400, the part is 295, and R or the percent is my unknown. And again, of 400 indicates that that's going to be my base. So my proportion, P over B, is 295 over 400 equals R over 100. And again, you have to memorize that proportion in order to be able to set it up. Now the solving part I'm going to go through very quickly because we've been seeing this throughout the unit, so it should be pretty easy. 400 times R is 400 R. 295 times 100 is 29,500. Divide both sides by 400. And that will get us R equals, it's a short decimal, so I left it as it was, 73.75%. So let's say you have a test worth 400 points, like a final exam. If you get 295 out of 400 points, it means that you're going to have 73.75% or about 74% of those questions correct. Again, we've been working with proportions, well, this unit, but also in our previous unit as well. So the only new thing here is memorizing the percent proportion and setting it up. All right, let's take a look at some more. So number 3 is already done for you. What percent of 22 is 56? So the base here is 22. In fact, I didn't type that in. I'm going to do that. So my part in this case is 56, which seems really weird, but the base is 22. So in this case, the base is actually smaller than the part, which can happen because it's what percent of 22 or out of 22 is 56. R or the percent is my unknown. So P over B is 56 over 22 equals r over 100. We cross multiply. 22 times r is 22r. 56 times 100 is 5600. Divide both sides by 22. And 5600 divided by 22 is 254. Oh, that should be 254. I wonder how that ended up. Let me just double check my calculations. Yeah, this should be 254. Cross that out. I feel like maybe it changed it at some point, or I made a mistake there. But r is, I'm going to say equal to, although it's about equal to 254.5. It is a repeating decimal, so if you want to write 54% with a repeating bar over top, you may certainly do that. My apologies that there was a mistake there. I just noticed that. I don't remember seeing that in the past, but it might have always been there. I don't know. We'll have to make sure to fix that. So 254.54 repeating percent. If you want to round to the nearest tenth, that would be about 254.5%. I think it's important to be as precise as possible, but this is kind of a weird question. Don't forget to fix that mistake also, on your sheet or in your notes as well. But this is a pretty common kind of problem. And the next problem is going to be very similar to this. So number 4, what percent of 4 is 15? So my base is 4, since it's of 4. 15 is my part. My unknown is the percent. So P over B is 15 over 4 equals R over 100. We'll cross multiply here. 4 times R is 4R. 15 times 100 is 1500. Divide both sides by 4, and I'm going to double check all of my work from here on out, of course. 1500 divided by 4 is going to get us 375%. It will be more than 100% because our part is bigger than our base. That's important for us. All right, let's take a look at number 5. And numbers 5 and 6, again, are going to go hand in hand. So number 5, it says, what is 99% of 840? So our base, again, is going to be 840. Because it's out of. The percent R is 99, since it's 99%. We'll put that over 100. My unknown in this case is the part. So we've seen examples in all different aspects here. We've seen where our R or our percent is our unknown. Now we're seeing one where the part is our unknown, and we'll see one where the base is our unknown as well. So P over B is P over 840, or if you want to replace it with X, you can, equals R over 100, so that's 99 over 100, or 99%. Cross multiply, 100 times P is 100P, 99 times 840 is 83,160. So we will then divide both sides by 100, which is pretty easy to do, so we'll just move that decimal point to the left 2 places. And that will get us 831.6. So that's the part out of 840 that is equal to 99%. No need to put a percent sign on this because we're looking for the part, not the percent. Number 6, what is 4.5% of 38? So my base is 38. R is 4.5, which we'll put over 100, and the part is my unknown. So my proportion will be P over 38 equals R, which is 4.5 over 100. Now let's cross multiply. 100 times P is 100P. 4.5 times 38 is 171. Divide both sides by 100 to get 1.71. And I do suggest you check to make sure your answer is reasonable. 4.5% of 38 is a really small percentage of 38, so it should be a pretty small number, and in this case, it is. All right, number 7 actually goes hand in hand with the last couple of problems. It says find 16% of 36.2. My base is 36.2. R is 16, since that's our percent, and the parts. Don't be confused between percent and part. Those are different here, but the part is my unknown, because this problem is really the same as what is 16% of 36.2, but it's worded as a statement instead of, or a command instead of as a question. So P over B is P over 36.2 equals R, which is 16 over 100. Let's cross multiply. We're going to have 100P equals 579.2. That's 36.2 times 16. Divide by 100, or move the decimal point to the left 2 places. Because this is a short enough decimal, I wrote the whole thing 5.792. All right, our last kind of question is where we're going to be trying to find the base. So in number 8, the part is 85. And notice how it's close to the word is. It typically will be. The bases are unknown because it says of what number. So of what is what we're trying to find in this case. And then, of course, R is 80 since that's our percent. So P over B is 85 over B equals 80 over 100 for R over 100. Cross multiply, we have 80 times B is 80B, 85 times 100 is 8500. Divide both sides by 80 to get 106.25. And again, going through those examples that are already done in your notes really quickly. All right, let's take a look at numbers 9 and 10. So number 9, 60 is 29% of what number? So my part is 60. My base is my unknown, and my percent is 29. So for P over B equals R over 100, I'll have 60 over B equals 29 over 100. Cross multiply, we get 29B equals 6,000. Divide both sides by 29, and 6,000 divided by 29, let me go ahead and calculate it again just to double check. This one gets us, a really long decimal here, so we will round this. So I got, let me pull this down. Sorry about this, guys. There we go. I got 206.896, so forth. So I rounded that to about 206.9. I don't see any repeating pattern there, so we might as well round that to the nearest tenth, 206.9, which makes sense. 60 is 29% of 206.9. Number 10, 4.5 is 90% of what number? So in this case, 4.5 is my part, my base is my unknown, R is 90. So P over B is going to be 4.5 over B equals 90 over 100. So we take 90 times B is 90B, divide both sides by 90, and that's going to get us B equals 5 for our solution. So 4.5 is 90% of 5, which makes sense. It should be pretty close to the number 4.5. The part and base should be pretty close together. All right, I do have 3 independent practice problems for you to try. Go ahead and pause the video. Give these questions a try using the percent proportion. All right, I hope you've had a chance to see all 3 of these. Let's begin with number 9. Number 1, our part is 9, base is my unknown, it's very similar to numbers 8, 9, and 10, and then R is 45. So we have 9 over B equals 45 out of 100. When we cross multiply to solve, we will get that the base is 20, which makes sense. 9 out of 20 is 45%. Number 2, what percent of 60 is 12? The base is 60, the part is 12, R is our unknown. So we'll have 12 over 60 equals R over 100. We'll cross multiply here. 60 times R is 60R. 12 times 100 is 1200. Divide by 60 and we will get R equals 20%. So what percent of 60 is 12? Well, it is 20%, which makes sense because 12/60ths reduces to 1/5 or 20%. All right, let's take a look at number 3. And always pay attention to what your solution is. Also, if it's asking for a percent, make sure you put a percent sign on it. Number 3, what number is 5% of 46? 46 is my base, my part is my unknown, R is 5. So we will have P over 46 equals 5 out of 100. When we cross multiply, we'll get 100P equals 230. Divide both sides by 100 and we will get 2.3 for our part, or 2.30, which makes sense. 5% of 46 should be relatively small. All right, let's talk a little bit about the percent equation. So the percent equation is a little different. It's P equals R times B. I'm going to highlight this in yellow. R represents the percent as a decimal in this case. That's going to be really important for us. P still represents the part, B still represents the base. So for our next set of examples, it's going to ask us to use the percent equation to find our solution. So let's go ahead and do that. Question number 11 is done for us. It says find 75% of 25. So the base is 25, or whole. You can see the word whole written here. The percent is 75%, which we'll write as 0.75. So for P equals R times B, replace R with 0.75, B with 25, and you'll do 0.75 times 25 to get a part of 18.75. I actually think the percent equation works really well for problems like this, where you're asked to find a percent of a number. It's very simple. You're just multiplying some numbers. You don't have to do a lot of solving. So number 12, very similar to number 11, find 9% of 410. So in this case, the part is my unknown, our base is 410, and our R, or percent, is 9%, which is 0.09. So for P equals R times B, I'll replace R with 0.09 and B with 410. So in our calculators, you'll do 0.09 times 410. No need to solve anything here. That will get us 36.9. 9% of 410 is 36.9. Number 13, find 40% of 7. So my part is my unknown again. Our base is 7. R is 40%, which is 0.4. So for P equals R times B, we'll do 0.4 times 7, which will get us 2.8. All right, let's slide ahead to number 14. Same kind of question. Find 26% of 505. So my part is my unknown, base is 505, R is 26% or 0.26. So for P equals R times B, I will do 0.26 times 505, and that will get me 131.3. All right, let's try one that's a little bit more challenging where we have to solve for either R or B. So in number 15, this one's done for you. 256 is what percent of 800? So in this case, my base is definitely going to be 800. My part is 256. And then R is my unknown in this case, my percent. So let's take a look at this. So if we have P equals R times B, we're going to have 256 equals R times 800. We do have to solve this since our variable is not by itself by dividing both sides by 800. So do 256 divided by 800 to get 0.32. We should then change that to a percent though. That will be 32%. All right, let's take a look at number 16. 2089.5 is what percent of 2100? So the part is 2089.5. The base of 2100 is 2100. R is my unknown. So for P equals R times B, we have 2089.5 equals R times 2100. Divide both sides by 2100, which again involves you doing 2089.5 divided by 2100. Make sure you put those in the right order. You will get 0.995, but as a percent, that will be 99.5%. We've already talked about converting between decimals and percent, so we'll do that again here. Number 17. 15.4 is what percent of 55? My base is 55, my part is going to be 15.4, and then R will be my unknown. So P equals R times B is 15.4 equals R times 55. Divide both sides by 55. So in your calculators, 15.4 divided by 55, which gets us 0.28. That is equivalent to 28%. All right, number 8 is really similar. Number 18, sorry, is very similar. Feel free to try this one on your own, but let's go through it. 7 is what percent of 350? My part is 7, my base is 350, R is my unknown. Again, feel free to try any of these on your own as we're working through. P equals R times B will be 7 equals R times 350. Divide both sides by 350, and 7 divided by 350 is 0.02. We should convert that to a percent, move that decimal point to the right 2 places. That is 2%, which makes sense. 7 is 2% of 350. Number 19, 36 is 9% of what number? So my part is 36. My base is my unknown, and R is 9% or 0.09. Again, we want to write our percent as a decimal for this strategy. So P equals R times B is 36 equals 0.09 times B. Divide both sides by 0.09. Again, watch your order. 36 divided by 0.09 will be 400. So 36 is 9% of 400. All right, let's try 20 and 21 here. Number 20, 2,925 is 39% of what number? My part is 2,925, base is my unknown, and percent, or R, is 39%, or 0.39. So for P equals R times B, we have 2,925 equals 0.39 times B. Divide both sides by 0.39. 2,925 divided by 0.39 will get us 7,500. Number 21, 576 is 90% of what number? My part is 576, my base is my unknown, R is 90% or 0.9. Watch how you write that as a decimal. So for P equals R times B, we'll have 576 equals 0.9 times B. Divide both sides by 0.9. Your base will be 640. Again, it may not be a bad idea to try number 22 on your own since it's the same kind of question. 0.6 is 7.5% of what number? My part is 0.6. My base is my unknown. R is 7.5%, which is 0.075. Pay attention to that. So P equals R times B will be 0.6 equals 0.075 times B. Divide by 0.075. And again, watch the order. You plug that into your calculator. 0.6 divided by 0.075 will get us 8 for the base. So 0.6 is 7.5% of 8. All right, for 23, 24, and 25, we're going to solve each of those using the percent proportion and percent equation, and then we're going to compare which ones we like versus for certain problems or which one you like a little bit more compared to the other. So I would suggest maybe pausing the video, giving these three a try, both A and B, and then come back and we're going to go through them very quickly. All right, I hope you've had a chance to try 23, 24, and 25. So in number 23, the question is 555.75 is what percent of 855? Part is 555.75, our base is 855, and R is my unknown. So our percent proportion will be 555.75 over 855 equals R over 100. So we will cross multiply to find our solution, and I'll put that work up there for you to see. Feel free to pause it as needed. You will get 65% for your solution. Let's take a look at part B. This one we need to write a percent equation. So P equals R times B. So for this one you will have, we'll go and slide that out of the way. When Mommy's done recording her video, she'll get you some veggie chips, okay? So we have 555.75 equals R times 855. We'll divide both sides by 855. You get 0.65 here, but that is the same as 65%. Sorry about that. Number 24. Our part is 8.075. The base is our unknown, and our percent, or R, is 8.5%. which is the same as 0.085. So for our percent proportion, P over B is 8.075 over B equals 8.5 over 100. Don't forget, percent proportion, we don't write the percent as a decimal, but percent equation we do. So cross multiply and solve, we will get a base of 95. Yes, I know you want some veggie chips. Mommy's getting them. Part B, use the percent equation. So for this one, we have P equals R times B. It's going to be 8.075 equals 0.085 times B. We'll divide both sides by 0.085 as I drop the veggie chips to get a base of 95 as well. All right, let's take a look at the last question, number 25. What is 36% of 205? So for this question, our part is our unknown, our base is 205, and the percent, or R, is 36%, which we can also write as 0.36. You are welcome. So for the percent proportion, we can write P over 205 equals 36 out of 100. When we cross multiply and solve, we will get a part of 73.8. Using our percent equation, this one's actually really easy to do using the percent equation. If you have P equals R times B, You have P equals 0.36 times 205, still gets you a solution of 73.8. All right, so let's take a look at the questions down below that. Hopefully I gave him enough veggie chips to make him happy for a short period of time. So number 26. This question says, which method do you prefer for answering percent problems and why? Number 27 says, how can you use the percent proportion or the percent equation to solve real-world problems? I want you to think about this. Is there a method that you like more than the other or not? Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. So go ahead and pause the video and think about these two questions. All right, so hopefully you've had a chance to think through this. Your answers are certainly going to vary for number 26. I do find most times students seem to prefer and be a little bit better at the percent proportion, probably because we've been working with proportions since the last unit, although we have worked with equations previously as well. So you don't have to necessarily like one more than the other, but you do need to, at least for the quiz, be familiar with both of them. And for the word problems we're about to see, so for the second question, number 27, you might not have known how you wanted to respond to this question,
Mommy,
but we're going to see some...
But I want some pistons.
Okay, we'll get some then. So we will talk a little bit about how to solve real-world problems for these kinds of questions. We will actually use the percent proportion and use the percent equations. Don't mind my son. All right, so let's take a look at number 28. Are you going to sit here and listen to the lesson also?
No.
No, you just want pretzels?
Yeah,
So we'll get pretzels for brother. So number 28, it says, if 18 out of 25 students in Mrs. Garcia's first period class received A's, what percent of the students received A's? Use either the percent proportion or the percent equation to find your solution. I'm going to show both for these questions, just in case some of you prefer one over the other. So first thing we want to do is identify our part, our base, and our percent as needed. So in this case, it's 18 out of 25 students. So 25 is going to represent my base, 18 is going to represent my part, and R, or the percent, is my unknown. So let's start with the percent equation. P equals R times B. So let me move that out of the way for us. So we have 18 equals R times 25. We will solve this by dividing both sides by 25 to get 0.72. So again, we want to write that as a percent. It'll be 72%, which means 72% of students received A's. Now, using the percent proportion, we would have 18 over 25 equals R over 100. Cross multiply, you're still going to get the same solution, although the benefit here is we do not need to move any decimal points at the end. We just simply get 72, and it will be 72%. All right, let's take a look at question number 29 as I get some pretzels here for my other son. So question number 29 says, Trevor received a score of 60% on his social studies test. If he answered 24 of the questions correctly, how many questions were on the test? Use either the percent proportion or the percent equation to find your solution. Again, I'm going to show both methods. That way you have a chance to see both of these. So let's identify our part, base, and percent. So he answered 24 of the questions correctly. So a lot of times students think, well, that has to be the base. But that's also not the total number of questions on the test, which is what we're trying to find. So the base is actually our unknown here, since we don't know how many total questions were on the test. That means 24 has to be the part that he answered correctly out of the total. And then R is 60% or 0.6. So we want to be really careful here with identifying our part, base, and then our percent. So let's show down below, I think, is going to be our percent equation. P equals R times B, which you need to memorize, is going to be 24 equals 0.6 times B. Divide both sides by 0.6 and we get 40, which means, by the way, that there were 40 questions on the test, which kind of makes sense. 24 out of 40 is 60%. Now for our percent proportion, it's going to look like this. 24 over B equals 60 over 100. Cross multiply, you'll also get 40. So either way, no matter which strategy you choose, you get that there were 40 questions on the test. All right, let's take a look at number 30. Hopefully we're done with interruptions for now. Number 30, one of my favorites, a Reese's Peanut Butter Cup gets 7 of its calories from fat. If this is 8% of the total number of calories, how many calories does a Reese's Peanut Butter Cup have? Round to the nearest whole number. So first thing, part, base, and percent. So 8% is clearly the percent, that's R, or 0.08 if we choose to write it as a decimal for the percent equation. 7 is the part, even though it's close to the word of, it's the part out of the total number of calories that come from fat. So our base is our unknown in this case. So the percent equation, P equals R times B, will be 7 equals 0.08 times B. Divide both sides by 0.08 to get 87.5. And we always want to think, especially for these word problems, like, does my answer make sense? So how many calories does a Reese's Peanut Butter Cup have? I will tell you that if you make 7 your base instead, then you'll have 0.08 times 7, which will get you 0.56. You'll get an answer that doesn't make sense. Clearly, there's not like less than 1 calorie in a Reese's Peanut Butter Cup. That would be great. I'd eat them all the time then. This makes more sense, having 7 be the part and B is our unknown, and of course our percent is 0.08. Don't forget to make sure you write that percent as a decimal, because again, if you don't write it as a decimal, you're probably going to get something, you're actually going to get 0.875, which is less than 1 calorie again, which doesn't make sense. Now, our percent proportion will be 7 over B equals 8 over 100. When we cross multiply, we also get 87.5, and I did put a label on my final solution. So a peanut butter cup will have 87.5 calories. My guess is that might be the mini ones. I don't know. Number 31, a pair of headphones is on sale for $45. This is 75% of the original price. What was the original price of the headphones? Use either the percent proportion or the percent equation to find your solution. So again, PB and R, let's represent those. So the part is 45. That's the part you're going to pay out of the total before the discount. R, of course, is 75% or 0.75. And once again, the bases are unknown, which is not surprising. So let's talk about the percent equation. P equals R times B is 45 equals 0.75 times B. Divide both sides by 0.75 and we get $60. Keep in mind, we're looking for the original price before the discount, so $60 does make sense. It should be more than the sale price of $45. For the percent proportion, we will have 45 over B equals 75 over 100. We'll cross multiply. You still get $60. So same answer, either way you choose to do it. And again, I want you to be familiar with both. So on your quiz, there are going to be a small handful of questions. I think there's usually 2 to 4, 2 if I'm remembering correctly, where I say you have to, there might be 2 where I say percent proportion, 2 where you use percent equation, and then for the rest of it, you can use whatever method you want. I'll let you know closer to the quiz, but I want you to be familiar with both methods. All right, now the next set of questions, so 32, 33, and 34 are not in your notes. I added this as like an extra or an addendum, so my apologies. I must have used an old version that I sent to get printed, but I want to see these 3 questions because I think they're really good questions for us. So you may need to kind of add these into your notes or print out that extra sheet or whatever. I do plan on giving you a sheet that has these questions on it in class as well, so you will get a copy of this also. Number 32, it says Carly earns a 5% commission on the sale price of a house. If Carly sells a house for $225,000, how much commission will she earn? So let's talk about what commission is. This is a really good real life application. It is an amount of money that is paid to an employee upon completion of a task, usually the task of selling a certain amount of goods or services. So like car salesmen, for example, a lot of times they're earning their money based on commission. Real estate agents often earn their money based on commission. So if they don't sell houses, if they don't sell cars, they don't make money. So a commission is a certain amount or a certain percentage of the price that they typically make on that sale. So obviously for number 32, we are talking about a base of $225,000. That's the total it sold for. Our R is 5% or 0.05. My part is my unknown. What part did she earn out of the 225,000? So looks like I just used the percent equation for this one, although you could use the percent proportion also. So P equals R times B is 0.05 times 225,000 because she earned 5% of the sale price, which is 225,000. That means she's going to earn $11,250, which makes sense. It's not unreasonable. You might only sell one house in a month, so $11,250 is not unreasonable in a 1 month period. You may even go some months without necessarily earning any commission because maybe you don't sell any houses or sell any cars. I did do the percent equation. I lie, or percent proportion. It's over here on the right hand side. I'm silly. So we have P over 225,000 equals 5 out of 100. Cross multiply, notice how big the numbers get, so be really careful, but we still get $11,250. So same answer. Either way, we just need to recognize again that the part is our unknown, not the base. If you flip-flop them and put them in the wrong spot, let me actually calculate it here. You end up getting that she earned, let's see, what is that number? It's a huge number, like $4,500,000 in commission. That doesn't make sense. You're not going to earn $4 million on the sale of a $225,000 home. It just doesn't make sense. All right, let's try questions 33 and 34. So number 33. 3 out of 5 middle school students have a cell phone. I feel like there's questions like this on the test too. Maybe not our quiz, but our unit test, yes. So definitely want to pay attention to these, despite the fact that they're not in the original copy of the guided notes. And again, my apologies on that. So number 33, it says, what percent of middle school students have a cell phone? Well, if it's 3 out of 5, let's write that as a percent. So here's what I did. Let me delete that. 3 out of 5 is 3 divided by 5, or 0.6, which is, of course, 60%. So if there are 500 students at LaCroix Middle School, how many students own a cell phone? Well, our part is our unknown. 500 is the total number of students. That's B. And our percent, we just found in part A. It's 60% or 0.6. So the percent equation will look like this. P equals R times B. So that will be, did I flip-flop these guys around? Let's see. So we would have, I must not have copied the other, that's weird. So we have P equals R times B. So this one, it's going to get us 300. Let me fix that. That's weird. Just noticed that. I'm not going to restart the video at this point. It's already been crazy enough. So P equals R times B will be P equals R, which is 0.6, times B, which is 500. So we need to take 0.6 times 500, which I'll draw an arrow down, is going to get us 300. So if we take 0.6 times 500, that will get us 300. I just wanted to confirm. This one definitely is the percent proportion, though. My fault on the rest of this. I must have had copied the work still from the percent proportion over. So we would have P equals 0.6, which is R, times B, which is 500. Now, percent proportion would be P out of 500 equals 60 over 100. Cross multiply here, and we will get 100P equals 30,000. Divide by 100, and we get 300 for our solution. So same answer either way. It means that there are 300 students at LaCroix Middle School who own a cell phone. So bear with me as I fix my own mistakes mid-video. All right, we only have a handful more questions. I know it's becoming a really lengthy video, but hopefully you're not sitting there listening to the whole thing and just the parts you need for anything you might have missed from class. So number 34, it says there are 1,200 students at Central High School. The ratio of boys to girls is 2 to 3. What percent of the students are boys? So it's really tempting to just do 2/3 and take 2 divided by 3. But here's the situation. I think it's underneath this box right here. If the ratio of boys to girls is 2 to 3, then that means we have 2 boys for every 3 girls. So you can see that here. So out of 5 total students, I'll just put that in words, out of 5 total students, 2 of them are boys. So 2 boys out of every 5. We want to write 2/5 as a percent. Well, that's 2 divided by 5, which is 0.4, or 40%. So we could even double this and make it 10 students. So I'm actually going to move this down. An option you have is to say, well, if there are 2 boys for every 3 girls, let me copied and pasted this, let me slide this down. This would be an equivalent ratio, 2 boys to every 3 girls. If we have 10 total students, 4 out of the 10, or 40%, are going to be boys. So again, it's kind of a tricky question, but if we say the ratio of boys to girls is 2 to 3, for every 2 boys, there's 3 girls. That means 4 out of every 10 will be boys. That's 40%. You don't actually need the 1200 here because, again, we're given enough information from this to figure out our solution. Now, if it said how many are boys, then we'd have to actually figure out what 40% of 1200 is. But it's not asking us to do that in this question. I think a picture does kind of help us with this. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at number 35. Last question. On your notes, this is number 32. The circle graph below shows the percent of students at Miller Middle School that own each type of tablet. Use the circle graph to answer the questions below. Letter A. How many of the 1,200 students at Miller Middle School own an iPad mini? And I know some of these are outdated, but I haven't changed my circle graph for several years. So we see that 25% of students own an iPad mini. So if I'm going to set up either the percent proportion or percent equation, the part is my unknown, the base is 1,200 since that's the total number of students, and then R in this case is 25% or 0.25. So the percent equation would look like this. P equals R times B, or 0.25 times 1,200, would get us 300. The percent proportion is a little bit more work, so I don't suggest using it, but you can. It would be P out of 1,200 equals 25 out of 100. Cross multiply, and we get 300 students. That kind of makes sense. 25% of the 1,200 students will be 300. Letter B, how many of the 1,200 students at Miller Middle School own some type of iPad? So that means we need to add the 25% for the iPad mini, the 15% for the iPad Air, and 40% for the iPad to get 80% of students. So same as your last problem, except your R is 80% now, or 0.8. So percent proportion is going to look like this. We would take P over 1,200 equals 80 over 100. You end up getting 960. I did put the percent equation off to the left here because I ran out of space. So you would take 0.8 times 1,200. Either way, you end up getting 960 students own some type of iPad. Finally, how many of the 1,200 students at Miller Middle School own a Microsoft Surface tablet? So that's 2%. So we can either do P equals 0.02 times 1,200, or you can do P over B equals R over 100, which is P over 1,200 equals 2 out of 100, and you'll get 24 students either way. Same type of problem for A, B, and C, except B is a little bit higher level, but you can use either. You don't have to show both. I know I'm throwing a lot up here for you, but you have to know how to use the percent proportion or the percent equation really well in order to be successful here. All right, thanks for listening.